Solstice 2024 is here, and this time around, it actually brings some pretty good loot. So much so that we're probably going to end up reviewing just about every single one of these. Today, though, we're going to be starting with the new weapon for this year's event, the Fortunate Star. This is a Void lightweight bow, which let me just say, we don't really have that many Void bows to begin with, outside, of course, Under Your Skin and Le Monarque. Now, I love Under Your Skin. I think it's a fantastic bow. But really, over the past year, bows have gotten so good in this slot, from pre-Aztecross, which can roll things like Incandescent, Archer's Tempo, the non-denouement, the Salvation's Edge Raid Bow, which literally has Volt Shot. Fortunate Star here is our Void alternative, as it can roll with things like Destabilizing Rounds. But is that the best perk on this bow, or is this bow even worth using among all the other killers we have in the game? Now let's start with our perks. In column 3, we have Archer's Tempo, Repulsor Brace, Successful Warm-Up, Enlightened Action, Hipfire Grip, Air Trigger, and Loose Change. In our fourth column, we have Archer's Gambit, Destabilizing Rounds, Golden Tricorn, Opening Shot, Precision Instrument, Disruption Break, and Kill Clip. Now, we will be talking about this bow inside of PvP, but PvE first. Bows really are not my thing inside of PvP, guys, just saying, but we'll touch on that in just a moment. First up, though, in column 3, the perks that really stand out are things like Archer's Tempo, which reads that draw time decreases after every precision hit. Now, this is a 25% decrease in draw time for 3 seconds after each of those precision hits. Now, we did all of our draw time testing on 540 draw time bows. Now, I'm going to give this to you in frames, but I need to be very clear because somebody actually brought this up here recently. They said, how do we frame count? Guys, all of this stuff is done in Premiere. It's all based on 60 frames, and it's purely a unit of measurement here. You could draw conclusions on what this equals out to in milliseconds, but the point is to show you the drop in draw time. So for instance, at base, it takes 28 frames. However, with Archer's Tempo being procced, this drops us down to 21 frames. Now, if you want to run through the math on that, you can, guys. I don't really like to bog things down too much with math, but you take X over 21 equals 540 over 28, work out the math, and that gives you a 405 draw time. Now, obviously, Archer's Tempo is a top tier perk. It's a reason why we've used it on so many different bows. But considering that this bow can also be enhanced, you can make this enhance Archer's Tempo, which buffs that duration of decreased draw time from 3 seconds to now 4 seconds. Now, the next perk we want to look at is Successful Warm-Up, perk that I've used many times on bows like Under Your Skin. It's also present here in column 3, and it says that each final blow increases charge or draw speed. Now, this is a whopping 37.5% being decreased in our draw time, and it lasts for 6 seconds, which is higher than that of Archer's Tempo. But keep in mind, it does require a kill to activate, whereas Archer's Tempo simply just requires a precision hit. Now, kills with this perk, while it's active, adds on 4 seconds to the buff duration. It's nice. I kind of wish it would give you 6. That's why there's an enhanced version, as that cranks it up to 5 seconds instead of 4. Definitely worth the extra second, though. Now, frame-wise, what are we looking at? Again, at base, we're still looking at 28 frames, but with Successful Warm-Up being procced, that knocks us down to 18 frames. Do the math, guys. X over 18 equals 540 over 28. That puts us somewhere around 347 draw time. Now, the reason why we're going over each one of these incremental differences in frames and draw time for these bows is because we want to see if there is a floor. It's very important because back in the day, Bungie used to place floors on draw times, which resulted in some perks being a waste. However, for here, Successful Warm-Up is still a solid option, but you have to make that decision. Would you prefer Archer's Tempo, bringing us that 405 draw time, or Successful Warm-Up, bringing us a hair below 350 draw time? Personally, guys, I prefer Archer's Tempo. Just too easy to proc, simply requires a precision hit, and in in-game content, especially with a lightweight bow, to me, it's the better option. Now, another unique trait option that's present here in the third column is Repulsor Brace. Considering that Destabilizing Rounds is also present in that final column, Repulsor Brace is a really good option to pair with it. It says that defeating a Void debuff target grants an overshield. Now, this is a 45 HP Void overshield that lasts for 8 seconds when getting a kill on a Void debuff target. And for the enhanced version, our Void overshield will instead last for 10 seconds. It's an alright pick, guys, and I would say if you're like a die-hard Falcon user, or if you want to rock Destabilizing Rounds and survivability is more important for you, well, this definitely aids that. Now, the next perk I want to look at is Enlightened Action. Dealing damage improves reload speed and handling. Now, this perk stacks up to 12 times, which at max stacks is going to give a whopping plus 50 in handling and plus 50 in reload speed, with the enhanced version increasing our max stacks to plus 55 handling and plus 55 reload. Now, bows are supposed to give stacks faster, considering you're just shooting one arrow at a time, similar like hand cannons. Unfortunately, though, there doesn't doesn't seem to be a number calculated for this yet on how quickly we're getting these stacks. We're kind of going in this with the assumption that it's similar to hand cannons, but I do want to mention that reload speed is often underlooked when it comes to bows. Draw time is the big thing that everybody looks at. And don't get me wrong, I like draw time, but reload speed literally helps you knock an arrow in faster. Now, if you want to get really crazy with your reload speed, this also takes us to the other perk that's new to us in Final Shape, Air Trigger. Increases ammo reserves, and when airborne, accuracy and reload speed are increased, but target acquisition is decreased. Now, the main thing that we really care about here is the increase in reload speed, and it is quite a bit. While airborne, you'll be getting plus 30 reload speed. No stacks required, guys. Like literally, have your feet in the air, boom, plus 30 reload. You're also gonna get a 0.8 times reload duration multiplier. Now, the enhanced version doesn't really do a whole lot here, simply just grants us increased inventory size, which isn't applicable on this primary. My question to you is, how often are you airborne? I love this perk on a weapon that has already very slow reload, especially slow reload with a very large mag. I can bunny hop and proc air trigger. However, this bow at base already has pretty good reload speed. Obviously, air trigger is very beneficial on other weapons. And I'm not saying that you don't notice it here on Fortunate Star. It's just that the draw time decreases from Archer's tempo or even successful warm-up just seem to be more useful, at least to me, on a bow. And like, let's just run the tape forward. If you don't have a build that's literally keeping you in the air up at all times and you're rocking air trigger, you're gonna have to literally bunny hop every single arrow. I mean, I'm not saying you can't do it. Somebody out there is gonna do it, but it does seem like a lot of work. Now, this takes us to column 4. There are a lot of great options here. The first one I'm gonna talk about though is kill clip. This is a very unique one on a bow. We've actually only had it on one other bow before, that being Whistler's Whim from Trials of Osiris. Now, kill clip gives us a 25% increase in damage, which lasts for 5 seconds. The enhanced version, 5.5 seconds. I know, Bungie really goes crazy with some of these enhanced perks. Now, the great thing about this is that on a bow, you're reloading literally after every single shot. Every one of these shots is re-procking kill clip as long as you're getting a kill. So that pretty much means you are indefinitely chaining kill clip back to back. Now, considering that lightweight bows, the complaint surrounding this archetype is that they do less damage than precision counterparts. Kill clip does allow it to be more competitive in terms of damage, taking our crit here from a base of 10,642 to 13,301. Then the next perk we have to look at is Golden Tricorn. Final blows of this weapon grant bonus damage. While this buff is active, grenade or melee kills of the same damage type greatly increases its damage and duration. Now, ×1 from a kill with our bow, this is going to give us a 15% increase in damage for 7 seconds, which isn't as high as kill clip, but keep in mind, does last a bit longer, and additional kills refresh that buff duration as well. Now, if you sprinkle in a grenade or a melee kill with the same damage type, this will grant you ×2, and this is a 50% increase in damage, which lasts for 10 seconds. It's a very nice damage buff. My only issue I have with ×2 is that it's not refreshable from weapon kills, only from additional grenade or melee kills. Another perk that I'm like, Bungie, come on, we're jumping through all these hoops, make it refreshable, which means for the most part, you're gonna be at ×1. In that case, you might as well go with kill clip. Now, our last damage perk is Precision Instrument. Dealing sustained damage increases precision damage. Now, each weapon hit essentially grants us a stack of precision instruments, and on this bow, this lasts for 2.1 seconds, and it goes up to a max of 6 stacks. However, if you miss a shot, you will remove a stack. AKA, if you got no thumbs, don't use this perk. Now, 1 stack of precision instruments, this is a 4.17% increase in damage. 2 is 8.33%, 3 is 12.5%, 4 is 16.67%, 5 is 20.83%, and ×6, which is max stacks, is 25%. That's a lot of work for something kill clip can do literally with 1 kill. Now, keep in mind, the benefits of precision instrument is that you don't have to get a kill, which is why we like it on weapons like linears, especially burst linears, that you can get multiple stacks in 1 shot. But on a primary, most notably a bow, I don't know if precision instrument is for me, guys. I'm just saying, kill clip gives you 25%. Yes, the enhanced version of precision instrument does increase our damage overall. 1 stack, it starts at 5%, amps all the way up at ×6 to 30%. And I get the idea. It's like, hey, you run into a champion, you need to lay into them. You've got precision instrument that's allowing you to blow your load with more damage with every single shot. But let's be real. You run into a high out target, a champion, a mini boss, dude, you're gonna pull out your heavy or your special. A precision instrument bow, That's not cutting it, man. Now this takes us to our other perk that leans into that Repulsor Brace roll. Destabilizing Rounds. Final blows cause nearby targets to become volatile. This perk allows weapon kills essentially to cause a volatile explosion in a 6.5 meter radius, and it makes any of those targets in that radius become volatile. Now, unfortunately, Bungie has a small 3-second cooldown before the perk can be activated again. Thankfully, the enhanced version does reduce this just slightly. But without a doubt, guys, Repulsor Brace in combination with Destabilizing Rounds, it's a great combo. You can literally self-proc it. It doesn't require Gerfalcons or getting volatile from another source. Just literally land your shots, tag up multiple ads, and now you're giving yourself some overshield and those explosive void kills. And the last perk I want us to look at is Archer's Gambit, which has made its return this episode. Archer's Gambit reads that hipfire precision hits grants a massive draw speed bonus for a short duration. Now this was the perk on our Gambit pinnacle weapon from years ago, Hush. But keep in mind, it was way more amped back then, meaning this version of Archer's Gambit is not as potent. Its draw time buff has been reduced from 66% to 60%, and it also only lasts for 4 seconds at base. Now this of course can be extended back up to 8 seconds by getting additional precision hipfire hits. Now Archer's Gambit also gives us increased reload speed and a reload duration multiplier, which is also nice to have. As for the enhanced version, this is just going to increase our initial buff duration to 5 seconds. Now this is a really fun perk. We talked about our draw times earlier, but again, 28 frames at base for Fortunate Star. With Archer's Gambit being procced, this drops us down to a whopping 11 frames. That's cooking, fellas. Again, let's do the math. X over 11 equals 540 over 28, giving us a whopping 212 draw time for our Archer's Gambit Fortunate Star. Now that's cooking, guys. Keep in mind, you gotta land hipfire shots. Not the easiest thing to do, but if you're on PC, shout out to Starforge, the impossible is made possible. Now we wanted to test out what would happen if we double stack perks like Archer's Tempo with Archer's Gambit. Big shout out to Doculator for sacrificing a puppy to get this roll. This was the roll we wanted to know more about. Unfortunately, there is a cap. Archer's Tempo plus Archer's Gambit only gave us a 1 frame difference, which it should be giving us more, obviously, meaning the lowest we could get things was to 10 frames. X over 10 equals 540 over 28. Fellas, that's a 193 draw time. Now, I'm not saying that 193 draw time isn't cooking. Obviously, that is cooking, but let's be real. In this case, Archer's Gambit is doing all the heavy lifting. Archer's Tempo barely adding here to the drop. Now, we took this a step further. We even tried this combination with Oathkeepers. Not only increases the damage of our bows with Adamantine Brace, but it also drops our draw time. It's subtle, but it's there. But even with Oathkeepers being present here, with this Archer's Tempo, Archer's Gambit roll, we cannot break that 10 frame floor. Meaning, at 193 draw time speed, which is incredibly fast, it's the lowest you can get Fortunate Star. Now, before getting into the God roll for this weapon, we need to talk about these origin traits. They're both really good. First up, we have Veist Stinger, where damaging an enemy with this weapon has a small chance to receive faster draw speed. Now, this is going to be a 10% chance each bow hit, which when procced, gives us a 15% decrease in draw time. That's nutty. For instance, take our base of 28 frames. If you proc Veist Stinger, this drops us to 25 frames. I'm sure you guys can do the math. Now, this can of course stack on with perks like Archer's Tempo, which takes our draw speed down to 18 frames. I lied, I'll do the math. It's 347 draw time, which actually matches that of successful warm-up. So Veist Stinger here is really nice. Now, our other origin trait is a Solstice exclusive trait called Dream Work. It reads that once per reload, assists or assisted final blows partially refills the weapon from reserves and increases reload speed for a short duration. Bows receive faster draw time. Now, this origin trait is really good, especially on weapons. It's something new, which has a terrible mag size. More on that in the next review. But what you're getting from Dream Work is not only a faster draw time, but you're also getting that increase in reload speed. Now, this is faster than Veist Stinger. This right here alone drops us from a base of 28 frames to 22 frames. And if you stack it with things like Archer's Tempo, this drops us down to a whopping 16 to 17 frames, giving us a range of 309 draw time on the low end to 328 draw time on the high end. It's cooking, fellas. But I do want to mention there is a bit of diminishing returns compared to Veist Stinger, which is curious, at least when Archer's Tempo is in play. I think what it really boils down to is that both of these origin traits are really good. But keep in mind, Veist Stinger is a perk that's better for solo play, as you don't have to depend on anyone else. It'll just occasionally activate while using it normally. But if you are in content where you have multiple teammates and you're working in unison together, you'll be surprised how often Dream Work will proc for you. Now, this takes us to our God Roll recommendations for Fortunate Star. Now, I'm not gonna jump up and say everything here is the God Roll, but let me just be real, there's really a lot of good perks. I think the question I was really wanting to answer is, does this bow bow possess the same deadliness within its subclass verbs that say Tyranny of Heaven or Pre-Asnix or Non-Denouement? As in, does that Destabilizing Round Repulsor Brace roll really pop off here? Let me just say, in my opinion, Destabilizing Rounds is just weaker compared to Incandescent and Volt Shots. So much so that I wish Destabilizing Rounds got a bit of a buff, maybe a larger radius, maybe insta-kabloomies, I don't know. I do believe that this is a unique enough combination that it's worth getting. However, would it be the combo that I would currently use right now? Maybe in things like Liminality if I'm just trying to break Void Shields and go for survivability. However, if I'm just trying to use this bow for outright lethality, I'm probably going to go Archer's Tempo and Kill Clip. You got one perk boosting your draw speed with each precision hits, it's easy to proc, and the other one giving you a damage buff, which I believe is easy to maintain here, especially when enhanced. At 0.5 seconds, guys, makes all the difference. Now, for my folks that absolutely want to rock precision instruments with Archer's Tempo, by all means, go right ahead. If you want to sit there and pepper those enemies from afar in GM content, shot after shot, who am I to judge? But believe me, I'm judging. But if you're looking to get the fastest bow in the game, despite it running into a cap or a floor, Archer's Tempo, Archer's Gambit is a really solid option, and more solid if you don't have a 540 base draw time. You see, we're operating here at 540 base, but we didn't get there by accident. You really need perks like Elastic String, which gives you a ginormous drop there in draw time. Now, at least from our observation, you don't want to double up Elastic String with the draw time masterwork. That caps you. You might as well just do a reload masterwork. And ideally, Elastic String, Compact Arrow Shaft, and a reload masterwork is the combo that I'm going to be going for. But keep in mind, Elastic String does hurt your accuracy. And considering that Archer's Gambit and Archer's Tempo is running into that floor, in that case, you could choose a different bowstring. Maybe you want something that doesn't hurt your accuracy as severely. Maybe Polymer String, which gives you +5 accuracy and still drops our draw time to 576. There's a lot of ways you can work around this. You can even do Polymer String and a draw time masterwork, which still gets you that coveted 540 draw time. My only concern with rocking an Archer's Tempo, Archer's Gambit roll is that even if you had nothing there contributing to your base draw time, you're still going to be running into that floor, which means origin traits like by Stinger and Dreamwork really aren't going to serve you that much. So something to keep in mind, which is why if you're completely dedicated on using Archer's Gambit, you may want to consider some of these other perks. Enlightened Action, Repulsor Brace, especially if you're rocking Gerfalcons with it, hell, even Loose Change. If you're going Gerfalcons, you might as well. You got those elemental debuffs that are applying, which is super easy to apply with things like Gerfalcons, allowing you to knock those arrows in faster and keeping Archer's Gambit up every time you land those hipfire precision hits. Now, I will say if you were having a tough time landing those hipfire precision hits, this takes us to my God roll for PvP players. Archer's Gambit and Hipfire Grip. Dude, go crazy. I'm not a fan of lightweight bows inside of PvP. Hell, I'm not a fan of bows in general inside of PvP. But that is a roll you can definitely roll with. One, increasing your accuracy when shooting from the hip. The other one, which desperately needs you to land those precision shots from the hip. Could be very effective. Outside of that though, guys, I do believe Fortunate Star is worth getting. It's got some pretty unique perk combinations. And outside, of course, Under Your Skin, we just don't have many legendary void bows in the game. This isn't on the same level of lethality to me as Pre-Asnix or Tyranny with Incandescent, and definitely not on the level of Non-Denouement. But I think Fortunate Star is on the list of bows that I would highly recommend. And who knows, maybe next season we'll get some artifact mods that lean heavily into void. Well, fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.